I love the God. It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up, so what can make a better me?
Welcome everyone to the Pommy and Fazz show. I'm Pom. Obviously, the accent gives it away. If you were unsure, I've got Big Fazz Dog. How are you doing, Fazz?
Very good, very good. If that intro can't get you up and about, knowing that tomorrow's Friday, another day closer to the AFL kicking off, and you know what? You may as well be a corpse. So, up and about.
Mate, big week. And it does feel like he's back, doesn't it? I know we've got Thursday night football on as we speak, even though it's a practice game. Well, they don't call these ones practice game. Well, they do actually. They're pre-season official games. So, I mean, I always find that weird. What was the difference to last week to this week? But they are official ratified AFL games. It does feel like we're somewhere nearer to the season, doesn't it, than it did before?
Well, call me a prude, if you will. Call me, a little bit stuck up. Something about watching a game of football on more than one camera angle really says we're close to it. Really says we're close to it.
I've got to say, a few of the KO transmissions of these practice games remind me of, like, when your dad pulls out a video of you kicking a soccer ball.
Mate, they were, I think the Essendon Gold Coast one took the cake. Like, the boundary was meters wide and you just couldn't see a thing. It was, at least the one, like the current one at Icon Park, at least, the camera was in a decent spot, but geez, they were tough watches. They were very tough watches to get through.
Mate, it's crazy as well. 2023, do you know what I mean? We could zoom in on stitching on Gary Ablett's boot on Mars in HD. Crazy. We can't play a game in Ballarat and get a good camera angle.
Oh, mate. Well, I think when they play in Ballarat, I think they're more worried about the, worried that someone would actually steal the cables and the cameras. So I can understand it in places like Ballarat and that, but yeah, it wasn't great. It was not great.
Mate, it's crazy, but we've got a lot to cover today. We have got the Carlton coverage. We're going to then cover some of the games that have already been completed, namely the Collingwood one. And in the top corner of my life at the moment, I've got the other two games on. So we'll do a brief foray on that. Then we're going to finish with something special. We're going to have some big calls. I'm going to put Fazz on the spot for some big calls this season and mine. And then we can readdress them at the end of the season. But let's get straight in with some new video footage.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me.
There we are, Carlton news, and you get some copyright-free graphics there as well.
Yeah, was it any less than 5 seconds or something? It's copyright-free, is that right? Or
mate, something like that. Do you know what I mean? Gil loves his money though. He does, but Carlton obviously with a big practice game tomorrow. If you're on social media, a couple of late outs for this one. There is no Marchbank, there is no Martin, there is no McGovern. And the way people are reacting, I'm guessing this is a grand final because this time last week I smiled because we beat Collingwood and was told it's a practice game. Now, evidently, it's really important. But I did want to put out to the audience, this might be a culture thing, but my sport in the UK, EPL, we don't have this. When a player gets injured, he's expected to play once he's declared fit and passed a fitness test. And that might be 70 minutes against the second best side in the league. And then he's shelved. We don't really have this. And I just wanted to put, am I wrong? But I would imagine that players like Jack Martin and Mitch McGovern, who I would say are instinctive players, all they need is their engine, which they can do in training. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they actually need 90, 100 minutes on an AFL field that they can't replicate in-house anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's position dependent as well, I think, and impact players like a Jack Martin. They don't need. I mean, Zach Williams is a perfect example. Late last year when he came back in those last 2 games, having that really long layoff, he was nearly our best player against Collingwood. So impact players don't need the time. It is very much sky falling down, but as usual, what do you expect? This is what it's as usual Thursday for Carlton supporters. For me, when I hear Marchbank, McGovern, Martin out, I mean, I never really named them in. So it didn't really bother me that they were out because I didn't name them in the first place. I won't be naming them in my round 1 team. It'll be a pleasant surprise if they are. That's just me.
No, I'm with you. And I think Gav here, as a few of you in chat, g'day Peter, Clarence, g'day to you, my friend. We've got Lana, the lovely Lana. Hello to you. Rowan's in chat as well. But I agree with Gav here that, like, Martin for me is one of them players who reminds me of Dimitar Berbatov. Like, will do fuck all for 75 minutes. He will have his hands in his pockets, probably wears gloves when it gets cold. But when the ball comes to him, he'll have a 5-minute spurt where he kicks 2-3 goals. So, like, I'm more bothered. And I've got to give Mitch McGovern some props here, right? He's had a baby. So the talk is his missus gave birth at 11:05, right? And I just want to put this out there, right? I would have, if I was Mitch McGovern and the club had released, oh, Mitch McGovern's not traveling with us because he's just had a baby, I'd probably request a trade if you didn't let me process it for 24 hours, speak to my family. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a traumatic experience for a mum and a dad, especially when it's one of your first couple. Obviously now, if my missus had a kid, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, okay, cool. We've done it a few times. But do you know what I mean? Like, that's what, I mean, Mitch, I can't really blame it. But the one that I'm more concerned about, and I'll read the team out before we come to him, but it is a strong team. You've got Sam Doherty, Jacob Wheaterin, and Plowman is the backline. Shardy. I do love the fact that they add Ellie Young, so he sounds French, but we've got Young, Sincotta is named, Blake Akers, Ed Kerno. He's not meant to be in the first 22, though, Fazz. Adam Fisher, Kerno, Hollands off half forward, Motlop, De Koning full forward, Silvani, Pitternet, Kennedy, Hewitt, and then we've got an extended interchange bench with Lockie, Cowan, Lockie O'Brien, Paddy Dow. Where is he? He's back. Matty Owens, Jack Carroll, Jackson Binns, Josh Honey, and Sam Durden with Kemp, Murkoff, Lemmy, and Aquay as the emergencies. Noticeable absentees: Cripper, McGovern, Marchbank, Mackay, Walsh, Williams, Martin, and your boy, Nick Newman.
Yes. Nah, remember with Nick, he's coming off a little bit of a injury. Missed a lot of footy season before, so he's on the modified program. But I'm almost certain Nick will play round 1, so I'm not worried about that at all. Big names in the unavailable or absent players, but I don't worry about them. I'm more looking at the blokes that were named, and the 2 that really interest me. Well, I'll say 3 that really interest me: Carroll and Dow. Because the talk last week was, where are these blokes? Walsh is out injured. Are they going to get a sniff? We want them to take next. Well, they're there now. And the other one is De Koning being named at full forward. Is he going to get the opportunity? Is he going to play a permanent full forward? And we'll see what he's about. So they're the 3 that really stand out for me. You go with what stood out for you, because I've got a question mark on one player that I want to get to in a minute too.
Well, I mean, and I'd love to know chat's thoughts and yours, Faz, but I saw that side and I was actually quite happy with the outs. And I'll tell you for why. I think Cripps, walk-up start, and also on behalf of the Pommy channel, sending our love to the Cripps family. I believe it was his nana who passed away, so God bless to you. I hope everything's all good, because that must be horrible to experience the week before the season starts. Harry, I'm not bothered about. He's a walk-up start. Sam Walsh, superhuman. We'll probably see him round 2, round 3 like last year. Zach Williams, I don't really care. He's out for the year. Jack Martin and Mitch McGovern, comment in chat as well. That is the rumours. They're totally fine. One's had a baby. one is being prepped for round one. Marchbank is the one that I'm concerned about because I think he is best 22, potentially. I do think, based on last year when he came back, he does look like the opposite of McGovern, that he does need some kind of match awareness. And Nick Newman doesn't bother me because as long as he's fit, he plays. But what excites me is I think there's some great contests here. You would say that Blake Acres has son at one wing spot. And I would say Lockie O'Brien and Ollie Hollands are definitely in probably a shootout for that. And I love the fact Binns is there, who's going to offer that competition, probably the next in the row. And I do love the fact that Ed Kerner is taking the Cripper role with Dow and Carroll in the team. Now, Carroll's been playing a lot more on the ball in training, I'm told, as an on-baller. So I think it's a great chance for us to see selection integrity and competition in a game, because potentially I would say that one of these bench spots is being played between Sincotta, Cowan, O'Brien, Dow, and Carroll, and Owies. I would say that only one of them is probably fighting for the job. So I'm really excited about seeing how these boys react when their mates who are in competition are playing on the same day. Because the guys who were out, all of them are playing best 22.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, those names that were out, there's not a great worry on them. For me, I agree with Marchbank. The worry is there was a little sentence on the Carlton page saying he's done a minor calf. And we know a minor calf probably means we don't see him till round 17. So, so that's that to me, he's the only one. The others, their walk-up starts. But the question mark, the player that I have the question mark on about where is he, where does he stand, what's going on, is Brody Kemp, because I believe he's had a really good preseason. I believe he's trying to lock down that spot. But again, not named in this practice match. So I'm a bit of a watch this space with him to see what's going to go on there.
It's interesting because I've heard the Twitter rumours, and g'day to Jasmina and Carlz. Carlz, I saw you at the game and I couldn't find you again. So, Queen of Chat, I hear you've got tickets to the Blue Abroad event. And Jasmina telling you off, Fazz. Round 17, Marchbank. You're a brave boy when she's in chat. But when we talk about Kemp, I actually don't mind it, because last year I felt Kemp was probably the biggest victim of Carlton's injury crisis and probably sacrificed a year of development being fit for the betterment of this club, because he started off as an intercept defender. Round 3 in the VFL, we moved him forward. And then we had the injuries again down the back half, and he went down back. Halfway through the season, he went back forward again. And then towards the end of the year, he went down back. So poor Kemp had a year where I think his best position is that intercepting third defender. But we kind of ruined his life a little bit for the betterment of having that safety net in our team. So I don't mind him not, because I think Kemp is behind Marchbank and McGovern. And even an 80% fit McGovern, I think you've seen the stats back it up, how much better Carlton are on transition. So I think for me, Kemp, I don't really want to see him. I would have loved Marchbank here, though. I would have loved to have seen him get the gig. But like you say, the car thing's a worry. But I do want to put it this way, right? I do think Carlton are a lot better headspace that you're hearing players miss for load management, because you hear load management until round 14, as finals is almost mathematically impossible. I'd rather have load management, because for me, round 1, round 2, round 3 are really a load more important than pissing about in Blacktown having 12 minutes against Sydney. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, the top teams shelve these players early. So I want to see that. I want to see the boys be ready. And that, for me, is more important, because how many times do we go into a season? We've got to be honest. Players are half done purely because Carlton are trying to get the quick headlines in pre-season. Fuck pre-season. I'd rather us drop tomorrow Because I'm telling you, soccer is an example. NBA is an example. They don't play preseason games in NBA. Do you know what I mean? It's all the kids, and LeBron, he's sat at home smoking big fat cigars, right? He doesn't care. He does it in training. These boys can train for this. Round one is so much more important. So I don't worry. Maybe I'm naive. I could be, but I'm just saying, if the EPL doesn't do it, NBA doesn't do it, NFL doesn't do it, I'm not really that bothered, because McGovern's job is easy. See ball, catch it, kick it really quickly. Marchbank's an intelligent young man. His job is see ball, catch it, kick it quickly. Do you know what I mean? I'm no issue with them not playing. Martin, I would have loved to have seen him, just because I don't believe he exists anymore. He's becoming David Cunningham. Like, I see him on the golf course a lot. I worry, but I will put it this way. He's done it before. No preseason. Round one, he's kicked 4 against Richmond. So, unfortunately, that guy is, and Clarence will back me up, like Dimi Berbatov, will do fuck all training, but somehow turns it on when he needs to. So, honestly, I'm not bothered. I'd be more bothered if players like Chera, who I think are mechanical players, Kennedy, Hewitt especially, players that seem to have momentum that gets them going. I'm more happy seeing Charlie play, because I actually think Charlie does need them game time and does need to get the cobwebs going. So I'm not really that bothered. Like Mickey D there with the thing. Mitch McGovern will continue fully be available. Round one selection is paramount. Fuck Blacktown. Do you know what I mean? Take me if you want. I'd rather play than play a Mickey Mouse game.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think the one thing we do forget, or people forget, or don't. These guys are elite athletes. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're naturally fit men. That's their job. It's just like with my job. I don't just forget how to teach after 6 weeks off over summer. You don't just forget. Like, they're fit men. So having the layoffs, they're still going to be able to come and do the business. Like, it is a bit of an overreaction about players missing. For me, again, I've been on the record to say I am on the watch on these players. Not this week, but I am on a watch this season on these players who are notoriously injured all the time. And but we'll cross that bridge when it comes. At the moment, we'll all sit down, enjoy Friday night, and forget about who does what. Look at Carroll, look at Binsey, look at Cowan, look at Ollie Hollands on actual good cameras. That's what it's about. Seeing those boys.
Mate, I'm with you. And for me, I actually prefer seeing, because I look at this team and I think Josh Honey, no Durden. There's no Corey Durden. Josh Honey played the Corey Durden role. He needs another week just in case he doesn't make it round one. But I want to see Carroll versus Dow. I want to see Ed Kerner prove it. I want to see Lockie O'Brien versus Olin Hollands. I think that is going to win you flags the more they have competition and the more they have to prove themselves, as opposed to putting out your best 22. Because we've done that for the last 5 years, played our best 22 in pre-season. Like, I want to see these guys learn the system. And for me, the guys who are missing, McGovern can play any system. Every system has an intercept defender. So can Marchbank. Jack Martin is Jack Martin. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Jack Martin doesn't sit down and listen at tactical instructions. I mean, he's probably away with the fairies and then Vossi's like, what did I say, Jack? And Jack's like, Vossi, don't worry about it. Just kick it to me and I'll kick 4 goals in the third quarter.
And it's absolutely true. And I've got this written down, spots up for grabs. These players, Josh Honey, let's make it difficult, son. Go out there. You're playing for your spot. And I think that's brilliant. There are blokes out there who aren't, Sard's not playing for his spot. All the blokes she said that would not play, that haven't been listed, they're not playing for their spots. Carroll, Dow, Honey, Binsey, Ollie Hollands, Cowan, they're all playing for their spots. And that's what's exciting about practice matches. Mate, I'm glad Harry's not playing. I'm glad Harry's not playing. I'm glad. Yeah.
And it leads me on to my next thing. Sam Walsh, there's a lot of talk. A lot of my friends went to the function yesterday. Looked really good. And evidently Walsh was quite open. He'd be 90% ready for round one. All right, 90% was the words he told a good mate of mine over a beer. And I'm willing to believe him because I actually don't think the guy's human now. I am probably scared to talk about it because I've got some American watchers. They might tell the FBI and they kidnap him. But I wanted to put this out there, 2 eventuals, right? The best case scenario for me is Ed Kerno kills it, or Dow kills it, or Jack Carroll. And then that shelves the Rush Walsh back brigade because suddenly Voss is like, okay, cool. These boys can do it. But the second one, right, and this is the eventual, we have a sub rule, right? And we discussed the EPL. Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal hasn't played for 4 months. The talk is he's going to play 70 minutes next weekend, right? Without playing a practice game. So it happens. And this is a world-class footballer on 500k a week. So that's a lot to risk. They're going to sub him out at 70. I want to put it to you. Say Walsh passes a fitness test. Very little pre-season, but we know he's fit because he's been running. Is anyone else thinking like I don't mind the risk of playing him. Now we have a sub rule where you can play anyone because play a half, get 20 ahead, have a sub like maybe a Lockie Plowman or a lockdown defender and go, right, okay, we'll shelve him. Or an Ed Kerno on the sub bench and go, right, we'll pull Walsh out. Ed, you come in, you're just going to pure tag for the next half. We're ahead, get away with it. For me, I don't mind that.
Yeah, and I think with Walsh, it's an interesting one because I think that whatever school of thought you're in, I'm not going to reveal yet what school of thought I'm a part of at the moment. I'll say what I'm going to say, and then I'll tell you what I think. You can make an argument either way. If he plays, you can say, geez, Voss has panicked. He's played. He's panicked. Or you could say, he's fit. He's ready to go. Why not push him? If he doesn't play and Carlton lose, everyone will come and say he should have played. Do you know what I mean? Like you can, no matter what, and this is the problem with I'm going to say Carlton supporters, but probably AFL supporters in general, is sometimes a club is backed into a corner and they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. No, the more this news comes, we're 2 weeks away from round 1. The more this news keeps coming out about Walsh, no matter what the team does and no matter what Voss does, he's going to be an enemy. He's going to make a mistake, no matter what he does, because there is 2 very distinct. I saw it today. Arguments between Carlton supporters. He should play. No, he shouldn't. He should play. No. This is going to go on for the next 2 weeks. And I tell you what, then the next evolution is Voss has panicked. Why has he played? You know, he doesn't trust the other players. Or, like I said, if we lose, it's, oh, they should have played him. They don't know what they're doing. They've cost us a game or cost us finals. Voss is screwed. He can't win. Now, what do I think? Mate, if the fucker's fit, you play him. I mean, it absolutely blows my mind. If he's fucking fit, you play him. You play him. Like, why wouldn't you play him? It's his job. Oh, in fact, mate, don't get me wrong. I would love nothing more than for my boss to call me right now and say, hey, Fazz, you know what, mate? You're fully ready to go for tomorrow. Class full of kids. Take the day off, son. What the fuck? No way, mate. You play him. Of course you play him.
Mate, I always look at it this way. It's easy to say rest players for big games, but tell you what, if you put me 6 figures as Michael Voss and we lose a game and everyone in Australia is going to call me a wanker, I want to play Walsh. I want to play my best personnel, even 90% fit. I want to play the best chance I have of winning. And I think no matter what way you word it, Walsh in that midfield is better than Walsh not in that midfield. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and please.
And I think you've got to do it. And especially with the sub rule now. And I think Jasmina has a great point. Like, look at Lipinski's dislocated his shoulder. Anything can happen at any time. Do you know what I mean? So I always look at it this way. A 90% fit Walsh could do his ACL fit 3 weeks later, round 4. Could aggravate the injury. He could aggravate it in training. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure a player would rather play than you put him on ice. And if it happens, it happens.
Gav makes the perfect point here. He had keyhole surgery. People hear back surgery? I think he's had his back pulled open. Like, back surgery is pretty serious, but yeah, you play him. Like, And at the end of the day, if you play him and he breaks down, well, you know what? He probably would have broken down in round 2. If he breaks down round 1, and everyone's saying, oh, no, rest him round 1, don't play him to round 2 or 3. Well, if he breaks down round 1, he was probably going to break down in round 2 or 3 anyway, like you said. So it's just like, if he's fit, he's deemed fit. It's not like we've got monkeys running the club. You play him. You play him. I don't even think there's not a logical argument.
Mate, no, mate, I'm with you. I am 100% in agreement with you because I think Carlton are better without him. And we've got a question here from Phil. The system. Oppositions know they slow us down, get numbers in the corridor. We're vulnerable. Dow, O'Brien, Ed, Plough. These guys are risky / shit with the ball. I think that's harsh on some of them. But what I will say is if you go back and watch the Collingwood game, you'll see Carlton adopting a lot different defensive transition. And Collingwood were a team that exposed that. I would say out of all the teams, I'll give Collingwood props. They exposed the vulnerability of Voss's system twice incredibly effectively. And I think what the Collingwood game showed is what Carlton have worked on. That doesn't happen. They don't get overlap because they defend in numbers with a traditional overlap now, as opposed to manufacturing it. A lot less running. And I would say Dow's susceptible by kick, but these players you've named there, Dow and O'Brien. O'Brien is a kick 90% footballer, so he goes at 65%, which is AFL average. For a wingman, Blake Acres is considered elite. He was rated last year in wingman. He goes at 68.3. When you kick a load and it's with distance, it's going to be Dow's like Dangerfield, gets the ball, kicks it, gets the ball, kicks it. He's never going to be very accurate. Plowman, lockdown defender, shouldn't be kicking the ball. He should be passing it off to a Sard or a Doc. And who else have we named? Oh, I've covered them. So, and Ed Kerno. Ed Kerno has never been known for his ball use, but neither is George Hewitt. But how George Hewitt plays, if you watch how George Hewitt plays to his strengths. He does them short passes. So the system. I
just want to add to that.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that? The bloke who we've been spending the last 10 minutes talking about, Sam Walsh ain't a great ball user either. So, you know, blokes, people just like to use the disposal and ball use as an excuse when they don't like a player. Cripps is not a great ball user either. Like, in fact, most of our good players aren't great ball users. So it's a piss poor excuse to say the system, you know, yeah, I don't know. I just think if you're going to criticize Ed Kerno for not being a good ball user, then you've got to put Walsh and Hewitt in the same conversation too, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, the guy who gets a lot of suspectability about his kicking last year, particularly from the media, was was Sam Doherty with his field kicking under pressure. I thought one thing from the practice game, and I want to ask the audience what you're looking for tomorrow. What are your big things? One thing that impressed me was the options the wings were making for their midfield and defence to give them an easy pass, where I find at times, and I think I've been very critical on Carlton towards the back end of the year, the space they create between their lines makes accurate ball retention impossible because they're having to thread miracle balls to each other, where when you watch Geelong, they run hard, even Hawthorn. And we'll come to the Pies game today. That was prevalent. Hawthorn work incredibly hard to get the easy kick, get the easy ball retention. So for me, I think that's something I'm looking for. Can Carlton control it? Because I do believe your dad's just said Papley's out tomorrow as well, and Mills. Yeah. Sydney aren't panicking. I'd imagine Sydney aren't saying, oh, Donald Trump's here. There's a conspiracy. Like, they're just saying, oh, they're being rested for round 1, you know, when there's 4 points on. So I'm looking for that again, that continued evolution of Vossi's game plan.
No, and I'm looking for that too. And I think, you know, another point with the kicking is, and geez, I love it when people put words in my mouth. Go back and watch it. I didn't say that. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, with the kicking, the AFL footballers, they can kick a ball. Like, every player on every list can kick a ball. It's got to do with what they do in the time they've been given. Like you said, the panicking or whatever, they can kick a ball, right? But what's up the ground? You know, casual viewers watching TV don't see the running patterns up the ground. I think Gavin said it before, running patterns and leading from forwards. That is the key. That's the key. Up the ground, what are they providing? You know, a lot of people give our backmen stick because they throw the ball in the boot. Well, you know what? When you're at the game, you can actually see the forward's 70 meters away. You got no choice but to throw the ball on the boot because the leading pattern isn't great. And yeah, so back the system to make these blokes better ball users.
Mate, I agree. And I'm going to make a controversial statement before we wrap up Carlton Sydney and talk about what's around the world of football. But I would say one of the most overrated players in the AFL, this is a big call as well. So
here we go. I love it.
This will get clipped. Isaac Smith last year is the most overrated year in football history, right?
Norm Smith medalist.
Because people go on about, his kicking efficiency killed teams. You watch 90%, right, off the top of my head, them kicks go to Jeremy Cameron. It was managed to create 25 meters between his opposite man, and it is an easy kick down the flank, right? And I'm always like, you know what, right? Any idiot could make that kick. O'Brien could make that kick. Probably Plowman, who is hated, would make that kick 9 times out of 10. And what makes Isaac Smith look so supreme is at Hawthorn, he had players like Buddy and Roughhead making them brilliant leads for him, or Cyril Rioli. Now he's at Geelong, he's got Hawkins making intelligent runs, Stengel. When you come to Carlton, up until last year, let's be honest, our forward 50 movement from 2015 to 2021 was dog shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were a winger, you were kicking to a 1-on-4, and then people were going, he's going at 60%. And you're like, that's pretty amazing, considering every time he's kicked, he's having to thread it through 8 players. Like, that will change. Like, I guarantee if O'Brien played in the Geelong team, he'd have 72% by foot. And everyone would say Lockie O'Brien is the greatest kicker of the football since the dawn of time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Because, yeah, it comes down to the forwards, and it's the same thing. You kick it inside 50, and, you know, I've always been a bit critical of Harry Mackay's leading patterns. I sometimes feel like he just wants to wrestle and try and out-muscle a bloke, which when you're 200 centimeters, 100 kilograms, I get it. Like, that's what you want to do. But him trying to wrestle all the time is very easy to man up on. Leading away opens the space. So I think, yeah, you do see, like, how come we never kick it to, we always kick it to blokes on their heads? Well, they're not leading. So, yeah.
Mate, it's tough. But, I mean, all in all, I'll be on the watch along tomorrow. So come down. I may even have a cheeky beverage because I need to get the pump up for the game. Do you know what I mean? Get into the game, but stay tuned tomorrow for that. But let's take a look of what's gone on in the world of AFL.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I'll pop off when
I was actually going to, you know, the original highlight for that was the Jamie Elliott goal. Right? And I actually had a little tear in my eye as I was making it. I was like, I can't do it to myself. So apologies to Collingwood fans. I was going to have a bit of a bouncer and do it. But obviously we've had some games. Hawks versus Pies. So that was an interesting game. I don't know if anyone got to watch that, but Pies ending up managing to snake the game and win it by the 6 solitary points. But it was a tight game and horrific injury, which we hope isn't too serious to Patrick Lipinski. But I think the real story here is how strong Hawthorn's midfield. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How strong their midfield works together. And a lot's been made of him getting rid of all them old players. But I've been saying this for a while. Early doors, I reckon they're going to jump some teams because of their incredible work rate in the corridor.
Yeah, look, it was a game, I think, the first 5 or 10 minutes or something, just camped in Collingwood's forward line. Hawthorn tried to get it out. It was just bombarded, kicked straight over their shoulder, which is fine. And I did, and for all the stick the Collingwood supporters gave Carlton supporters last week, you guys were pretty foolish and stupid on social media after that game. Just gone. But anyway, Hawthorn. I've made a few outlandish calls. I think I said this could be the worst team in the history of the AFL/VFL that I've ever seen. And I saw Carlton win 2 games. So that's a pretty outlandish call. But I think if anyone can get that engine room running, it's Sam Mitchell. I think they're going to play. I agree with you. They're going to play their best football at the start of the season before falling away dramatically. And yeah, but to be honest, I didn't get much from Hawthorn. It was more about Collingwood. And I think they're not going to go very far if they're going to let a Hawthorn midfield bully them the way they did.
I think it'd be interesting. I mean, I got a bit of the Richmond versus North vibe from Hawthorn and that Collingwood, that when they did turn it on, they did look, there was a golfing class, but then towards that third quarter, by the end of it, I really got the impression that hang about Hawks are matching them. And there was a few takeouts for Collingwood fans, though. John De Goey, I thought, was sensational on the ball and getting a majority of time in the guts. I think that's a good move for them. It's interesting because I see a lot of Carlton in Collingwood. You can see that they're trying to add that next layer. There's a lot being made of Collingwood's just winning games. Do you know what I mean? Just winning games. And there's been a lot made of Carlton's, they're either brilliant or shit. They need to find a middle. I do feel that it reminded, I dare say this, right? Because it actually gives me flashbacks, right? But I do feel a bit of Brendan Bolton about Collingwood. You know, when Brendan Bolton was like, you know, when we had that 2017 season, that 2016 season, we did all right, like 7-8 wins.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then it was like adding the next layer of being attacking. Carlton need to score more than 60 points. Like they can't keep doing that. And then Bolton was like, okay, let's get more expansive. And then 2018 happened. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And we saw what happened when Carlton dropped a bit of defense and decorum and tried to be aggressive, how it backfired. I do feel that, you know, watching Collingwood, I think that is maybe going to sting them. But all in all, it is a practice game and the run out. And I think Lipinski's a big loss for them. But as the I can't even say your name, Velociraptor, there we are, Ben. I'll call you Ben, it's easier. As he said, Ed Allen probably gets his chance now. But that's a big loss, I think, to Collingwood.
Yeah, and as you said, it's only a practice match, but fuck them. I thought they may have beaten Hawthorn, but they were less impressive than what they were against Carlton. Nothing got me up and about Collingwood. Everyone said, "Oh, did you see Darcy Moore's tackle? Yeah, he was chasing down a dinosaur. Well done, Darcy. Good boy." Nothing excited me about him. Jordan De Goey in the midfield. Well, he played a really good game, which is fantastic because it means his next 4 are going to be terrible. So awesome. Well done, Collingwood.
Well, I've got to say, I've been quite bullish on the Hawks. I know your old man's in chat saying he doesn't see him winning 2 games. I don't think these guys will finish bottom. I think they'll surprise a few people. But a few takeouts. I know a good friend of the channel, Stess, in chat, but I was really impressed with Newcombe. It was nice to see Warple perform a little bit as well. Cam McKenzie, though, excites me. I was huge on him in the draft. He looks sexy. He really does look a sexy footballer. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Hawks do, to be honest. I'm looking forward to seeing how they go in.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a team that's... I think they're going to be okay to watch. I think you're going to enjoy watching them. I do like Newcombe. Warple's the one for me. He had that really good season. You know, they were they were comparing him to Sam Walsh at some stage, I'm pretty sure, in one of his seasons. And he kind of fell away a little bit, but I think there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders now, and I think he'll do all right. I think he's a good little footballer. To me, I think Collingwood probably missed Ginnivan a little bit. You know, he's quite important. There's an interesting one about Dacos. I think they're going to be careful, Collingwood, that they don't break this kid as far as every man and his dog saying he should play mid, should play mid, should play mid. And they're going to put him in the mid and so on. If his best work is off the halfback, his best work's off the halfback. I wouldn't be moving Dacos. I'd be leaving him on the halfback. Let him do his best work.
I think watching them, they look like they're trying to move the ball quicker. And to me, keeping Nick Dacos there at halfback and then pinch hitting him on the ball is the best way. I hate it when sides do it and go, oh, we got to play him on the ball now. Like they've still got big bodies there to protect him. Give him another year. And I think Nick Dacos is sensational, world-class footballer, and will be in the top 5 in the comp very quickly. Do you know what I mean? But why rush it when you don't have to? You're not in like in a Hawthorn position. They've kind of got to do it. They've had to go early because they want to speed the rebuild up. Collingwood don't. They've still got Pendles. They've got Taylor Adams. They've got Tom Mitchell, who I thought was better today, and you actually saw why they've recruited him, right? Because
I've been on Tom Mitchell.
Yeah, they dominated round clearances. For me, why risk it? Like, keep him off halfback, damaging teams on that transition. And then next year, when Pendles maybe knocks it on the head, you float him through there more and more. But yeah, I'm with you. There seems to be so much emphasis on now. And sometimes just relax.
Yeah. No, I like Will Day as well. I think he's a very, very good footballer. And yeah, I just think I've been on Tom Mitchell since, I'm on record. I was on this show saying I think he's going to be the best recruit of the year in the AFL, just because of what he does. And you saw it today. He's going to be very important for them. But we'll see what happens. The question about who's going to finish higher, North or Hawthorn. I like to do a little bit of an algorithm in my head about the 3 positions on the ground: defense, midfield, forward. I think North have a better defense than Hawthorn. I think North have a better midfield than Hawthorn, and I think they've got a better forward line than Hawthorn. So logic says I think North will finish higher than Hawks. But you know what? Nothing will surprise me with an Alistair Clarkson blow up at some point that'll just bury them into the ground.
Do you know what I mean? I'm with you. I think, but I do think I'm bullish. I actually do think Hawthorn were going to get cheap wins. I think they'll finish higher just on the back of cheap wins. I've got a feeling, but we've got Carlton Best in chat as well. If you get a chance, check out their podcast. It kept me company on the way to work. It is a thoroughly entertaining podcast. They are good girls, and they were with one of Faz's besties this week, Cam Dempster. You may see them on Twitter creating fictitious rumours that then become mainstream media that I have to field on Blue Abroad.
That was the best. Cam, I hope you're watching, man. Do you remember that, Cam? That was the best.
Mate, wasted a week, right? I have to say, of people asking me, is the Bailey Smith rumours true?
Like, who'd you hear it from? Fazz. Wow.
And you know what pissed me off is they were like, nah, I remember someone saying, there was a trade done by Zero Hanger. And I was like, I fucking made that.
Yeah. It's amazing how it travels. It's like, I know we digress a little bit. It's like how this whole, I'm on the big train of our training ground's no good. And they literally asked Luke Sayers in an interview about the training facilities. And I'm like, how is something that I started on Twitter?
It's the worst.
Wild.
You got to be careful on Twitter because sometimes you make a joke and the amount of people who talk to me about, do you reckon the icon needs leveling out? And I'm like, Fazz. Fazz.
Hey, if anyone wants to chat about it, I'm thinking of just doing a soul show about on the icon training facilities, the turf.
Well, I mean, talking about teams that may disappoint, we've got Port and Freo. We are halfway through just started the third, halfway through. Pom's a bit ambitious there, but Port doing pretty well at the Fremantle Oval, 13 ahead at the moment. And For those who haven't watched, I've joined the Inner Sanctum boys. I've done a video, actually, on Fremantle's three-pronged attack in the forward line and how it may surprise teams. And thankfully, Nat Fife has made me not look like an idiot because he's banged 3 goals, 1. Fremantle, just by watching while we're doing this show, looking a lot more sharper than Port.
These two teams, I think, are two, along with Carlton, are two of the biggest watchers this season. Anyone who watched that Show Me the Money show or whatever, it seems like there's a bit of an exodus going on at Fremantle. Chera left last year, then Lobb and Griffin Logan, so on and so on. So maybe something is a bit dirty on at Fremantle. I don't know. And Port Adelaide, we all know, had a season that we expected better. We expected better from Port Adelaide. So I look at these two teams and I think they could easily swap each other's spots in the 8. Having said that, Fremantle looks sharp and Port Adelaide, I thought it last week in the game, they look heavy in the legs, not heavy body. I'm not fat shaming. They look heavy in the legs. And I don't know if it's because they're wearing black boots or whatever. They just look like they're clumping. I don't know. Does that make sense to people, what I'm saying? Like, they just look ploddy. That sounds stupid.
What? I see it. They don't look like the back half of the season, Port. I always say that the statistics back it up, that 2 sides swap in the 8 every year. I always say that the one that I look for is who finishes the last 6 weeks, of the season before. And Port, I thought, were fantastic towards the end. So I was quite bullish on them because I was like, they felt like they were going to get going. And they hit the straps late. And I thought, short and preseason, do you know what I mean? You just come out raring. They looked like they did this time last year, where it looked like Hinckley was set for the sack. And I speak to a lot of Port fans. Hinckley is like always in the gun sides. It's like, it's like they're waiting to sack him. And there seems to be a voice. What I think might happen with Port, and I hope I'm wrong for Port's sake, because big friend of the channel, Per, I do love a bit of Per. I know he's going through it at the moment, watching the watch along, but I just get a feeling if they get to the bye and they're not in the 8, I reckon the knives will sharpen. And Australian media froths a sacking more than I do.
Oh, they do. They do. And you're right. Like, they did finish strongly. Your theory makes me a little bit nervous about Carlton with the whole last 6 weeks thing, because we were dog shit in our last 6 weeks.
One side just gets better though. So
yeah. So with Port Adelaide, I think a lot of things we forget as well. Losing Robbie Gray, big loss, huge loss. I mean, he won't be able to manhandle Carlton, which is great. Boak's another year older. Charlie Dixon's another year older. I know they've got Butters and Rosie and Dersma and all those young players coming through. I know that. But you can't just... They can't just become superstars, Horn Francis, they've got them coming through, but don't underestimate the loss of Robbie Gray and all these players being another year older. Jonas, all these and I think what I'm saying, they look like they're plodding along. They just look like they're going through the motions almost. And with a team like Port Adelaide, stuck in the mud, with a team like Port Adelaide, with the season they had, they can't afford a slow start. They just can't. They have to get out of the blocks. I agree with you. Every loss they have is another article, especially in South Australia, about Ken Hinckley getting the sack.
I've got to say, though, Robbie Gray retiring, I'm sure Gavin will share my sentiments. I actually cheered that because...
it was Robbie Gray retiring. I almost celebrated it more than my children being born. He just I check under my bed for Robbie Gray at night. Like, he haunts me, that man. So him gone is great.
Mate, he's just one of them players. And I've got to talk about this team because I was viciously attacked by a couple of Lions fans who reckon I am incredibly negative on the Lions. And I'm shocked because I'm quite bullish on the Lions. week in, week out, they are one of my teams to watch this year. And it all stemmed because I said that Sydney didn't have many of their best 22 out. I used a broad phrase, half were out, and turned out there was 4. I was 25% to a half. I might have exaggerated it for sex appeal, but I did get a hiding from Brisbane fans. So I just want to put it out there. I'm going to give them the respect. Currently, we are at the end of the half time at the moment, and they are battering Geelong, absolute shellacking them. 6-9, 2-3, 30-point lead. Daniell rolling back the years, and everyone's getting a touch of the pill. They look very good. They will be hard to beat. But what are your thoughts on Brisbane? We know that Fazz is the enemy of Brisbane. You got the wrong one.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's like abuse by association. Everyone who has been following this show for all last year would know my opinions on Brisbane. The most vanilla side ever put together. And you know what? Like today with the news was so Brisbane. This was so Brisbane. They got like a 35-man leadership group or something like that. Like, you know, they had the photo. They had the photo of their leadership group, and they had to like zoom out. There was that many fucking people in there, and you know what? Not one of the players made me think, "Oh, geez, I would love to get stuck in an elevator with that bloke." Mate, boring. They are boring. They've got no personality. The only decent thing to come out of Brisbane is Joe Daniher's mustache. Seriously. I don't even want to talk about them. This year.
I can't believe I was called the Pommy Brisbane hater. I can't just, the audacity of the fan base when Fazzy's saying this.
They couldn't even win a grand final when it was gifted to them on a plate. Like, come on. They are vanilla. They're boring. Their captaincy choices are boring. Their leadership group is boring. Everything about them is boring. Their jumpers are boring. The ground is shit. It's just... And, hey, well done. They're 5 goals up against Geelong. I'm sure that'll do them really good when they lose another prelim this year. So, go Brisbane.
Brisbane fans out there, I will take just a written apology. Yeah, just don't even want a long one. Just say sorry, Pom. Sauce Pom. Right. You don't hate Brisbane. Right. Okay. So there it is. We've cured that. Thank you, Fazz. But now we come to the exciting part of the show. People enjoying this. The lovely Jasmina. Fazz is unhinged. Fazz didn't hold back. Do you know what I mean? Go Fazz. Villa Brizzy eyes. Do you know what I mean? I would say, I think the only nasty thing I've said about Brisbane, so, and I'll full disclosure to Brisbane fans, I said that they were the biggest disappointment in the AFL. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think he's harsh. Like, I'm sure Brisbane fans, if they're honest, will agree with me there that I feel like you should have got further than what you have. But we're coming to this stage of big calls. So Fazz, on the spot, give me a big call that is going to happen in 2023. And chat, fire your big unpopular calls.
Big call. I think 3 coaches will be sacked before the bye.
Ooh. Do you want to name them?
Ken Hinkley, Adam Simpson, Brad Scott. No, not Brad.
Imagine if Essendon tarred their coach pre-season. That would be the greatest.
Yeah, no. I think Adam Simpson, Ken Hinkley, and a bit of a left. I think Stewie Dew might be a little bit under the cosh should they not come out all guns blazing.
I actually think that's a great call because I actually think everyone in the media is absolutely going mental for Gold Coast. It's like, oh, this is the year, top 8. And I'm like, when the press start to do that, they are literally sacking you if you don't make the 8.
Yeah, you're cooked.
Like, if I was Jew, I'd be reading these articles going, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and Bevo's a good shout, Daniel. That's a good shout as well. Bevo could be in trouble if the doggies fall away because they did You know, they've lost Dunkley, they've lost Hunter, traded big to get in Rory Lobb. So yeah, but no. So that's my big call. 3 coaches.
Mate, I love it. Here's my big call, right? And they're going to come at me. I reckon Sydney are mentally scarred and will finish bottom 6.
Yes, I love it. I like
Evidence, Adelaide, GWS. I reckon that this. I've been toitering on this in videos, but I just get a feeling that it is so that when the season starts, it's going to get a little bit hard looking at their starts. I think the wheels will come off. I think as a young list, one of a real young core to that list, I think teams will expose it. And looking at their fixtures, tough fixture list, I reckon it'll just be too much for them.
I think the evidence you use is really good, you know, Adelaide, GWS, but I think you look at even deeper. So Doggies winning the flag in 2016 with a really young team really fell away really sharply. Now, Sydney didn't win the flag, but I think we can agree they overachieved by making the grand final with their team. We look at Hawthorn back in 08, won the flag in 08 with a young team, fell away dramatically until their three-peat. I think Sydney will have the second year blues, as they say. I know it's not their second year, but they've been up, and I just think they'll, you know, these young players starting to get found out. Teams aren't going to let Chad Warner run down the wing like a unleashed dog for the entire season. He's going to be clamped down on. I think blokes like Isaac Heaney, you want to talk about disappointments. I put him almost in the De Goey bracket. Year after year after year after year, we keep hearing Isaac Heaney is going to do this, he's going to do that, and he doesn't. So he's now in the gun. Did he move into the midfield at all in grand final? I can't remember. I remember there was something about that. Callum Mills is their superstar. You know, Franklin's another year older. Can they get the best out of Logan McDonald? Don't really rate their ruck. Yeah, I think that's a huge goal. Paddy McCartan played a season off emotion, probably. Can he back it up? I like it. I reckon it's a great.
I know he's bold. I just get this feeling. I just get this feeling that because I look at it and think that grand final they got hammered. Like that wasn't one of them finals you walk away and think, oh, there's something we can learn from it. The only thing Sydney learned is they didn't deserve to be there. Right?
Yeah.
Like I know that sounds harsh, but they weren't ready. When you're in a tight one, you can maybe say, okay, cool, we work on this. But the gulf of class in that game, and fair play, Geelong battered everyone en route to it. I think that's got to have a lasting effect. And I think the teams they start with in their first 5, I think if they get exposed in that, we saw it with Adelaide, the seeds started to fester. And I just think it's one of them where I think players like Kennedy missing and stuff retiring, who are the cool, calm head. I don't look at that leadership group at Sydney and go, oh, wow, these guys inspire me.
Parker's another year older. And JJ, same, another good example. Melbourne, when they made the prelim the next year, they finished second last or third last. I can really see that happen. I think that's a great call. I think it's an awesome call, actually.
Can't wait for them to win the flag. And that gets clipped.
Snip this. Brisbane Sydney grand final.
Before Sydney fans come at me, I tipped you to win the flag the last year, so there is a little bit of hatred there. Okay, next one. This is a fun one. Biggest lock in the AFL for 2023. So an absolute staple. If you were putting your mortgage on it, what are we betting on?
Oh, if I was putting my mortgage on it, what am I betting on? Look, the Gil McLachlan leaves. I don't know. The biggest lock in the AFL. I think that the biggest lock is in 2 weeks' time on Thursday night. There will be articles in the paper criticising dramatically Richmond and Carlton, whoever loses that game. The article on Friday will be sky is falling, and it's going to be ridiculous. I think that's going to be the biggest lock. Whoever loses that game, yeah.
Well, you can see now, can't you? Richmond, when they lose that game, everyone's going to be like, "Oh,
Dynasty's over."
Do you know what I mean? It's going to be like, "Oh, they've spent big, draft hand." Taranto and Hopper flop because they had the bad quarter. Mate, I totally agree. My biggest lock, Mateus Philippou, $15 on Sportsbet at the moment to win the Rising Star. Do you know what I mean? Remortgage your house, remortgage your mate's house. That is as good a lot. Basically, for those bad with economy, that means if you want to be 15 times richer than you are now, put all your money on that and wait.
Now, actually, I've got one for you, and it's a little bit of a. I mean, the answer's already been done because of the idiot what he said to the journalist. But I'm going to say, which coach, now that Ross the boss is back in, which coach is going to be the first one to abuse a journalist? Clarko, Ross the boss, or Bevo? And now we know Clarko abused a journalist last week, but I'm talking in a press conference after a game. Which is the first one?
I reckon Ross. I reckon, and I did my St Kilda preview last week. I think St Kilda are fucked. And and honestly, I mean this. I hope I'm wrong, but I watched them this week. The injuries, horrific. Their injury list is vomit as well. Like, it's all their best 22. I think watching how he set up last week, it's so negative and the game has gone so far. I think St Kilda are going to find that bringing mates back is a nightmare. And I think he'll snap round 4, round 5. I can see him snapping huge style.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Clarko, but I think Ross Lyon, I can see him snapping round 1. Like, he is so wound up, that bloke. And he's a miserable bastard at the best of times, let alone when they're losing. So yeah, that's going to be huge to watch. Clarko's already blown up, abusing journalists and all that, so it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
Do you know what I mean? No, I mean, and Fred here, it's not disrespect to Ross. I just think out of the game a while, you watch his game plan. You watch what he's trying to do. Do you know what I mean? I just don't see it. And I always question when some mates come round and it feels a bit pally-pally. You look at the movement, it's slow, it's stagnant. And then you hear him, particularly when I hear his stuff on St Kilda's show where they're talking about how they move it. The game has moved on so quickly. I think he's going to get absolutely peppered. And I look at St Kilda's list and I just don't think Ross is the man. I think there's a lot of talented young players that he ain't gonna give opportunity to.
It's it's an interesting call. They're an interest. Well, I'd say they're an interesting watch if they weren't so irrelevant. But yeah, I'll keep it.
And I hope I'm wrong because they're my wife's team, and I'd love them to be up there with us fighting for it. And the final question, right? Final question: who's finishing 18th? And who's winning the flag?
I think I'm a bit different to you. I think Hawthorn will finish 18th. And I can't change. I said it 2 weeks ago, so I've kind of got to stick with it. No, I've got to change. I think Melbourne will win the flag. There you go. I went Richmond 2 weeks ago, but I can't, I've got hashtag Fazz Tigers and all that, so that kind of ruined my timeline. So I'm going to say Hawks, Spoon, Melbourne, flag.
Do you know what I mean? I would say 18th, Eagles. I don't see it. I still think they're going to be gash. And I know everyone's...
And I said Adam Simpson will be sacked for the bye. So, yeah, good call.
And I know everyone's got excited with Fazz D's. I know everyone's got excited because they did well in pre-season, but I'm like, I don't see a backbone in that side. And I think that when you watch the bottom 4 sides play, Hawthorn will be tough, North will be tough. even St Kilda, they'll be boring and monotonous. I think they'll beat Eagles. So I just can't see how they do it. Flag side.
Yep.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say the team I completely forgot about because they're probably the most irrelevant team in football. GWS. I think they're a good shout for the spoon as well. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they're getting to a stage now that they can't be shit because they haven't got any players left to sell.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, who's winning your flag?
You know what? A good friend of mine came in. I can't find your comment, Loz. I love you to pieces as well. A good Brisbane friend of mine came in and she tuned in at the slander. So sending you my love, Lauren. Here she is. The beautiful Lauren. She's just been married to our wonderful friend, Cam Dempster. I actually think Brisbane win the flag. I actually think Gunston is what they need in finals time, and I think he will deliver it. The quote most vanilla side in the AFL. I don't think Geelong. No, I think Geelong will come close, but I think eventually they'll get found out. Before we leave, Carlton, people in chat. I know there's a few opposition fans as well. I love this from Clarence. Can you imagine Sons for the spoon?
Oh, huge.
Can you imagine the banter? Imagine the banter if they finished.
Imagine
where are Carlton finishing?
Imagine if the Suns and GWS finished 18th and 17th, and then Gil McLachlan leaves.
If that happens, one of them would have to move to Tassie.
100%. I agree. Where did Carlton finish? I've said it. I'm going to stick by it. 6th. I think we'll finish 6th.
I keep saying 6th. My heart says 4. My brain says 6.
Say 5th then.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll split myself in the middle. 5th. I do have a premonition. I have a dream. We play GWS, and we literally only have to win. And I also have a vision that Carlton beat GWS round 3 by 80 plus. And we go into round 23 needing just a win to secure a double space, like Collingwood did. And I have a dream that Carlton just don't show up. It's one of them horrible games where it's like the St Kilda game, where we're better. We just can't get anything going. But I have us going and winning 2 finals from there. 2 finals and tasting defeat on the big stage, which drives the boys. To great things. Because on Blue Abroad, when you first ever saw me on Carlton People, I said we win a flag 2025. So I'm sticking with ancient Pom.
I love that. And just one last one. I saw Gavin say this. I love this line. I don't care who gets the spoon, just as long as we beat them. Carlton are notorious for losing to the team during the year who eventually gets the spoon. Like, notorious for it. So I love that statement. It's so true.
Lou, next season, my friend. Next season will be our season. I just think this season, I think the boys, I look at it this way. I want to have my blue goggles on and say we'll win it. And I believe, I genuinely think 6 sides this year can win it if they play good footy. And if they peak at the right time. It's peaking at the right time. I think 6 sides potentially can win this flag. Do you know what I mean? I think 12 sides can play finals. I think it's the closest season we're going to ever see. And I will say this. I actually think the gap from 18 to 16 will be smaller than the gap from 14 to 8. I actually think there is a gulf between the bottom 4 sides in this competition and the next 14. I just think these boys, I think you've got to be honest with yourself. They're not a final side. They haven't played it. And very few sides go into finals in that occasion and nail it. And I don't think we cannot. Sorry, 2024, not 2025, next year, 2024. I just don't. I think they need that experience. And I think there's one more what disappointment in the way, but I think they'll win 2, and I think it'll be one of them cases where we bottom out. We have our final a week too early, and the times are hard. But I think that's the validation they need to get in to the next year, and I'm firm on that. But like Chris says, our best is good enough. It's can we play our best? And let's be honest, the first 23 rounds are bollocks. Absolute Mickey Mouse football. It's the next 4 weeks after that really count. And we have zero knowledge, but they can win it. I just think a lot's got to go right.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the league itself is set up very clearly. I think it's 3 groups of 6. I think the top 6, the middle 6, and the bottom 6, they're creating quite an obvious gap between the 3 groups, which, like I've always been like, if you're in that middle 6 group, which I believe we were in last year, in that middle 6, you can finish anywhere from 7th all the way down to 12th or 13th. So I think, just because you finished 9th doesn't mean you haven't had a great season like we did last year. It just means you're in that group. I'm now tipping us to be the bottom end of that top 6 group.
Yep. And no, I agree, Lou. I'm not saying we can't win it. I 100% believe they play their best of abilities. They can beat anyone. I just think logically, I think it's a lot harder for us to win it than Brisbane or anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Because they have so much experience in that time. For us, like you say, Lou, a lot will be injuries, but also a lot of these boys have never managed a final. Do you know what I mean? There's a handful of players, and that occasion, it's total different football. It's why Geelong haven't won 20 flags, because finals football is totally different. And I think our game will be good in finals. I genuinely think you won't see the mistakes in the season, but I think the pressure in a final will just expose them little technical flaws with the players, because they won't be used to the occasion. I think the occasion will overrule them at one point. But
agreed,
we can win it, honestly. And trust me, when we're in finals, any 8 can win it.
Love it. Great call.
But we'll wait and see. But that is all we got time for. We've got a little bit over. We'll be back next week, same time, because that's the last week before the real shindig comes on. So we'll do our preview for Richmond versus the mighty Blues. And thank you very much for joining us. But much love, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See ya.